old. I'm like, excellent.
See? Well, you don't look 89. By the way, we're live.
Yeah, I just saw that.
We're happening. Welcome, Sherry, to the table, to the decision table. Hey, girl, like literally, we just have conversation here. I just kind of feel that I get spoiled sometimes because I get to have amazing conversations with people across the world, and you're across the other side of Australia. Feels a long way at the moment with all the borders being closed, and it feels so funny. The world used to feel so close. It feels so far away right now. But what I was going to say was we are just having conversations because I figured that one of the things we can do is have everyday conversations with someone and look through it through a different lens. So this theme that I'm looking at this month is called the need for a new approach to leadership. And I'm saying that because I'm writing a white paper at the moment around what I believe is the need for a new approach to leadership. And I'm just asking, we have a conversation and I just bring it back to leadership and all things leadership and lenses of which you're using and how we can be maybe even more effective in the way that we lead in our own sphere of influence. And who knows where we go with this conversation. So you ready for one?
I sure am.
Yeah. Because by the way, anything can go down on the decision table. There's no judgment. There's no, I'm never asking questions because whoa, something happened there. That was spooky. I'm never asking questions because I want you to go somewhere or say something. I really, and I think this is really important on the decision table, that A, it's a no judgment zone. B, it's I'm asking questions because I'm really curious. I think that this is part of the new approach to leadership, is that we're willing to have a curiosity in our conversation. What do you reckon?
I love it. I was hoping you would go somewhere though. You not so much go somewhere, but I always love how our conversations go somewhere is what I mean.
Well, here's the thing. Our conversations always go somewhere on here. So don't worry about it. We will go somewhere. So one of the things I know about you and your world, let's go somewhere then, is you're pretty resilient. Right?
I think you're going to make me cry today, aren't you?
We're only just starting.
I haven't got tissues. Go for it. Yes.
But you are, right?
Look, there's definitely areas I could be stronger, but yes, I would have to say, and I think it's a learned resilience. I think some of it's come from family, learning from family, but I think, different situations mean that you have to learn to be a little bit more resilient. And yes, so I think I've got some learned, some from learned from the family, but yes, there's definitely areas that I can be a little bit more resilient.
Okay, let's go further into learned. Where have you learned it? What's helped you to learn to be more resilient?
Definitely my upbringing. I think my parents, especially my dad, has, he's been in business for 50 years and he's still working. He's 72. So he's still out there. He's still working. And, if he loses a client, he's like, he picks himself up really quickly and moves on, So not just about being resilient, but the ability to pick up and move on really quickly. I think that's really important too. So, massively learned that sort of stuff from my dad.
Yeah. I guess also something else would be you've had some challenges along the way. What kind of things that have helped build that side of it?
So that's interesting. What sort of challenges have I had? Do you mean in my upbringing or since?
Whatever.
I know obviously being a single parent has its challenges. I think definitely, learning this new path. It's not that new, but it was, at the time it was new, and sort of coming to terms with it and being, okay, well, let's, I suppose learning how to just keep things going, and, having I think with resilience is, the ability as well to keep things going. And because obviously when you're a parent, especially when you're a single parent, you can't go, oh, look, I'm just going to take some time out. It's, okay, we've got to keep going with this. And I feel like I've, taught my daughter in some ways to be more resilient, and resilient and persistent as well. I know we're just talking about resilience. So, definitely, there's not many things I can think of that have like a specific time where I've had to be resilient. I know in business, I think definitely resilience, you need resilience. You won't survive if you don't have resilience.
Yeah. How have you kind of, I don't know, managed, or how do you sort of balance that between being a businesswoman and a mama bear?
Yeah, you can see obviously it's a strained breath I just took then.
Yeah.
There are days where I feel like I'm hitting goals and doing really, really well. And there's other days where, all it takes is for someone to go, oh, is everything all right at home? And you're like, oh my God, I thought everything was going really well. And you think you're doing really well. And then all of a sudden. So I think for me, the most important thing, so there's a few things I've been doing. So I do a lot of balance work, and I know if things affect me a lot quicker, it's because I've got off balance. So I do meditation. I do kind of like affirmation, but words, and I spend half an hour doing those. So I know if I've got busy during my day and I haven't done them, then things will affect me a little bit more, and I'm a lot less resilient.
Yeah. Tell us one of those affirmations that you would say.
Well, do you know, to use the word affirmations is completely the opposite to what they are. They're more neutralizing statements. So they're basically statements that, because, I used to be a lot more, up and down. Sorry. I used to be a lot more up and down emotionally. It would be an emotional roller coaster. Something would happen and I'd be, really excited about this or really excited about that. And then something, bad would happen. So, and then you'd have big lows. So the big high and big lows. So the words that I do actually help to neutralize my emotions. So one of which I feel like at the moment is probably the most important is, for me at the moment, is, and I should know it off by heart because I write them every day, it is safe for me to be who I am. I am a beautiful, it's safe for me to be who I am. Oh no, I have a right to, hang on. It is safe for me to be who I am. I have a right to be here. And just those words alone is so powerful for me, because I've always, I've always in the past been, not confident in my abilities. So I've kind of, been living in a bit of a shadow. So for me to do, things like that has really helped my confidence and to sort of shine a lot more. That was a lot.
That was my internet. Was one of those moments for you to shine, was what I got.
Oh, meanwhile, my nose is running. Thank you. I thought you'd frozen.
I had frozen. I'd zoomed away. I'd come back. Who knows where I've just been? Maybe I was in one of those meditative moments or something, and you know.
But you came back.
Maybe you zoomed me up somewhere. By the way, Alyssa says meditation, 3 green hearts. Namaste also, Alyssa. Yeah, look, I think very much, those affirmations are so important. And it's funny because you said give yourself the right. I think that's one of the things that often as individuals and then as leaders, giving yourself permission to stand strong, to be what you're meant to be, have that balance in the case of what you're saying there, and to know what that balance is for you. And I think that that's the most important thing along this journey, is that you know what that is for you. And I was about to say that, Alyssa, and allow, right? Knowing and allowing you to have that balance is, and be that balance, and what that means for priorities. Because I often say this, and I've said it for a long time, but knowing what your negotiables are and your non-negotiables are really important, because it helps for you to know what that balance is, and then go, you know what, this just isn't going to work for me. So I know I'm not even going to go down this way. And I think those things are so important, right? And often not necessarily, it doesn't kind of fit into other people's agendas sometimes, because other people aren't having to deal with what you're having to deal with as a solo mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time balance comes from you, and being, centered and calm, I think is really, really important. You can have a really busy day, but if emotionally and you're centered and calm, I think you can deal with, things in a much more, calm and a much more controlled way, as opposed to just going, oh my God, I'm really, really busy, I don't have any balance. It's not about doing more, it's about being more centered.
I often say I'm more off balance now than I normally am. But Alyssa, I like what you say. I usually say words along the lines of, I allow myself right now. Yeah. I allow myself right now. Yeah. What if we as leaders, sorry, Sherry, go for it.
No, I was just saying, even taking the time for yourself, is really, really important. Yeah.
I was going to say, what if we as leaders, we allowed ourselves to be ourselves right now? Do you think leadership kind of works like that right now?
If as leaders we allow ourselves to be
ourselves right now.
I think yes. But
there's a but.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because I think there's definitely, you've got to have a theme of being yourself, but I think there's definitely, maybe I've misunderstood.
No.
Yeah, I think as leaders, it's important to obviously be yourself in character, but I think from a, sort of helping people, and you do it in your own natural way, as opposed to, a leader must do this. You can actually, you do it in your theme and your flavor, I suppose.
I like that. That's awesome. Yeah. And that comes around to the kind of culture that you're bringing into it, right? That is important to who you are, what that is, how that looks. I don't know, though, whether or not there is the capacity so much for us to be doing that, because I think there is, if you're in the right safe places. And you talked about safe, feeling safe. In the safe space, we thrive and we can be who we are. My thinking, though, as across the globe, leadership as a whole, are we creating these safe spaces in leadership right now for us to be ourselves? And that's the piece that I would question when I'm thinking of that question that I just asked you before. And I wonder about that. I think there are spots, and this is why we're having these conversations, because I want this kind of conversation out in the open. I want us to start questioning things. I think there's a lot of what we've taken for granted, as in, this is the system, this is how we do it, this is how we're going to keep doing it. And I don't know that this is going to be helpful as we keep moving forward.
Do you know, I suppose it's how we see leaders, because like when you're talking leadership, in my mind, I'm imagining, you know, sort of top CEOs and those sort of people. And I know that, you know, they definitely need to have some sort of structure and some sort of, you know, they can't just go, oh, well, today we're just going to do this in our business, in the business or whatever. But leaders who are making big change, like, you know, a lot of the people that you're working with, like people that are making massive change around the world, I definitely think they need a safe place, because if they, you know, they're the ones who are, you know, making a massive difference. So like a different leadership types, if we can.
But here's the thing, Sherry, you're a leader. You're a leader in your own sphere. You're a leader to your child. You're a leader to those that are in your world.
How do you create?
Don't you need safety there? Why does it have to be those that are making the biggest impact, those that are making the biggest change? And anyway, how do we know that's the biggest change? That's only how we perceive it, that there is a level to that leadership, right?
I definitely think, yeah, look, you're absolutely right that, you know, we are all leaders in some way, shape or form. I was just looking at the big leaders and the people who are making massive change, as opposed to people like myself who are making small changes and, you know, maybe not as big a table as the others. But, you know, and I suppose the other thing too is, you know, as a leader, you know, you're judged by your peers, you know, so how do you actually create the safe space for a leader to be, you know, to be themselves? How do you create that safe space?
Yeah. How do we? And does it?
That was a question for you.
No, I get that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think that more importantly, and you know, I love it. You're just going off here. So good. That's so beautiful. We are all always leaders. I love these conversations. Yes, questions, Amanda. Yeah. When thoughts are rich, decisions are rich, and outcomes are rich. I think here's the thing, right? Is firstly, anyone that's got any followers has a leader, like is a leader.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's your children, a child following you, they are looking up to you as a role model. Whoever we are, in whatever space we're in, if we are a role model for someone somewhere, then we are helping to lead people in our life. And I think there's what you're saying there's levels to leadership. I think there's capacity to leadership. And because of that capacity, it creates what space you play in. But I don't believe that just because maybe you play in a big space versus playing in a smaller space, that any of these things mean that you don't have it happening. So what I mean by that is whether you play in a big space or a little space, we still need these spaces safe for us to have conversation, for us to even have uncomfortable conversations that sometimes we've got to have as well, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're playing in a big space or a little space, we've still got to be able to have them. How do we create these spaces that are safe?
And is it almost as well, like, you know, when you think about having a safe environment, you know, are we ever going to have a safe environment? Because really, you know, and I'm sort of coming back to the being judged, you know, people judge you, you know, you sort of, you know, and I was brought up, you don't really speak out of turn, you know, you don't really, you know, like we were taught not to be, you know, out there and speaking our mind and that sort of thing, or I was. So a lot of the time I probably don't feel that my spaces are safe, and maybe I need to do some more work on me being thicker skinned as opposed to trying to create a safe space as well. I mean, there are two things.
No, I love that. And I love the fact that you question it. And I think that's what we're about, right? As leaders, we have to continue to evolve and question and develop. And the only way we're going to do that is if we go, how can this be more effective? How can this be better? How can we make it better? And I think that it comes down to fundamentals. I always talk about leadership as there's some fundamentals. I don't think so much about old style leadership, which was, hey, I'm going to tell you how to be a greatest leader. Here's the 3 principles to being and if you do this, you're going to be the most fantastic leader. I think that's old style leadership. What I do think is there's some fundamentals that leaders need to put in place to begin to build out the culture that is really important for us going forward. One of them is awareness. One of the reasons I'm having this conversation is so that we create awareness, right? The next piece of that is ownership. And I think as a collective, when you're at a group, at a decision table, there is this collective ownership that you can take. But I think it always comes back down to, as a leader, what ownership are you taking? There's things that from a conversation that I'll go, you know what, not taking that on board. I don't need to do that at this moment. But there's another piece of this that I definitely will own. And that will help me to evolve as a leader. Then I think that for you to actually, there needs to be a change of some sort. So once you've taken that ownership, what's that change that's going to be a place? And the last fundamental is sustainability. That we are leaving footprints for the generations and the generations and the generations to come. What are those going to be? These have to be sustainable solutions. These have to be sustainable decisions. These have to be sustainable, platforms that we're creating that actually are going to be helping to springboard for the next generations to come because they're the next leaders. Yeah?
Yes.
So I think there's fundamentals, and it's the fundamentals that kind of bring it back to, yes, as a collective, we make this, but what are you going to own yourself to what is in control right now?
Yeah. And what can we control? Because there's a lot of things that we can't control as much as we'd like to, there's a lot of things that we can't, that we can't control.
Exactly. So, how do you think then that we have more of these kind of conversations out there? How do we create spaces like this?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the culture, creating a group that has the right culture and a safe place for people, like everything that you've mentioned, having the right culture and having the right group of, people that believe in the same, the same things.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I think that comes down to being really certain about what you're going to stand up for. And you've talked a few times about, judgment. I think there comes a point as a leader that we just know there's going to be judgment. I'm sure there's people who think I'm pretty crazy. I'm sure there's people who think, how does she think she knows all that? And I'm okay with that. I really, truly am. Because I also know there's a lot that I don't know. And I'm really curious, and I'm okay to ask questions about that. And I'm okay to keep evolving. But I will stand strong on my non-negotiables. And some of that is my beliefs. Some of that's my values that are never going to change. Those things are never going to change because they are so my decision DNA. Yeah. But I want to know that I can keep changing as I keep moving forward. How do you see it, I guess, that we often have the same people at the tables? So we're learning the same things. How will you make sure in what you do that you have different people, keep learning from different people so you can keep evolving?
First thing, make a decision to do that.
Yeah,
Make
right.
a decision.
So it comes down to a personal decision. Yeah.
The words I have in my mind every time I make a decision or think about something, I have you in my head going, when you're going to start to play a bigger game. And that for me has always been something like, are you going to go and play a bigger game? Like, what are you doing? Probably shaking me a few times going, when are you going to play a bigger game? And, so I think the decision.
Can I just stop you on that one, though? Here's the reason why I say that. This is my disclaimer, everyone, to that, is because I know you have a bigger game to play. I know you want to play a bigger game, and I will not let you settle for anything less.
No. I'm just like, oh my God. All of our conversations end in tears somehow, some way, shape or form. Bless you. I believe the same. And I need, people like yourself to go, what are you doing? And, Taki, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think 10, maybe when I first met Taki, one of the first dinners, he said to me, I thought you would be, a lot more. He said it in a really kind way, but it was sort of like, oh yeah, So anyway, so back to your question, like I should be playing a bigger game than I play. I sell myself short. So I think making the decision to play a bigger game will then open up the opportunities to mix with people in different rooms that have different. Classic example. I was like, right, in my business. I want to play a bigger game. Okay, well, who do I need to, where will I find the people that can help me to grow and so definitely people that are playing a bigger game than you or,
good thinking.
And it doesn't always have to be people who are earning more money. It just could be people that are, they're making decisions quicker or they're, they're making a difference where, you hadn't even thought of, so giving back, charity, that sort of thing. So I think making the decision first to play a bigger game will open up the opportunity and then looking out for the opportunities because we're all presented with opportunities. It's just a matter of saying yes to the opportunities. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I see this is where the everyday leader has an opportunity to play a bigger game. It's just what is your balance? What's your capacity? And I think that, this goes back to the no judgment. Well, how can someone judge you for staying in your lane and being what you're meant to be? I don't think that anyone has the right to judge you when that is the case, right? And that means then it's only you that are judging yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to then allow yourself, right, to have permission to play the bigger game for what that means for you. And I think this is what it's always got to be about is that, you say about being in the room with others that are maybe at a space that is further along on the journey than where you're at, so that it helps to keep you. But I think, part of this journey is that we're all on the journey. We just maybe at different spaces along there or stages or whatever it is, seasons in that journey. But we're all on this journey. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the last little while is that we can all pour out to one another, and it doesn't matter who we are, what level we are at, but there's always something that we have in our hands that we can serve others. And I think if you come from that kind of space, that kind of you build that culture around you, it's amazing who you draw into your world. It's amazing those opportunities that you speak of, how big they become and how often they just flow back into your world. Yeah. And I think when we allow ourselves to just stand strong in what that is for ourselves and what that means, that balance, play in our lane, that it's amazing how others will perceive us. And I speak about myself just as much as I'm speaking to whatever and whoever out there, right? Like I really, truly believe And I've noticed that as I've stood stronger, not worrying about what people are thinking, not, and understand this side. I'm always worried that I'm going to upset people because I don't want to upset people, but I'm not going to let that stop me from saying things, right? Because my intention is never to upset people. It really, truly isn't. And I want to respect the fact that maybe there are times when I don't know what I'm going to say and I don't want to do it wrong, but I still believe I need to have a voice at the table.
Yeah.
And I think that's sometimes that balance can be really tricky. And I don't know that I have it perfect in that way, but I'm willing to give it a go. I'm willing to open up conversations, and I'm willing to make mistakes as I keep going on this journey.
Is there a time that it'll be perfect though? I think really, like you say, we're all on a journey and we're all trying different things. We'll never be, we'll never have that perfection. It's always the journey. It's always the learning.
So how do we do that in regards to a new approach to leadership? How can we be more effective in this way? How can we do this better?
I was just going to say one of the other things as well. I was just on our last, just on the last topic is not being afraid to ask. I think yes, opportunities become available to you, but to not be afraid to ask. And also, it ties back to one of my neutralizing statements, which is it's safe to be here. I have a right to be here, and really believing that you have a right. You have a right to ask. You have a right to, people can say no, but it's asking the question, can I join your group, or can I do this, or could I collaborate with you on this? It's not being afraid to ask. So, yeah, sorry, I just thought I'd add that little bit.
Are you afraid to ask?
No.
Yeah. Where's that come from?
Oh,
I think there probably are listeners that are afraid to ask.
Yeah, there probably is. Look, I have been never afraid to ask, and since I was really young, that's one thing that it's not something that I don't think I don't know that I learned it, because my parents aren't sort of, then they're different nature, but I think I learned from a very young age to ask for stuff, like ask, would it be okay? Is that okay? Could I have, I don't know. And ask to, when I was really young, there was a grand piano in a restaurant and I asked to play it, little things like that where, people go, oh my God, you can't ask to play a grand piano in a fancy restaurant. But I've just never been afraid to ask.
Wow. See, that's such a good skill set. What if
it is?
What if leaders weren't afraid to ask for help, ask for support, ask for someone to have their back, ask them to come on the journey with them?
I don't even know how you would help someone to ask more. Maybe you've got some ideas, like how would you help somebody who's more introvert and probably doesn't ask for help or don't feel they're worthy of the help? How would you help them to ask?
Yeah, my key to go there is, and why do I know this? Because this was me, is when you've got drivers outside of yourself, it's not about you anymore. And the only person you let down is all the rest of the world that you could have helped if you don't get up and do that. And your vision
is so powerful. What you just said, that's so powerful.
And your vision is higher than the fact that you don't really like going on lives and having to spread your whole world out to the world and look at me moments. I'm a massive introvert. This is not something that I used to think, oh, I'd love to get up every day. I'd love to do a live every day. I'd love people to be looking at me, being involved in my world, knowing everything that goes on in my life and the way that I think. No, that was never, ever, ever something that I dreamt about as a young girl. Or,
That's so funny, 'cause Taki's the opposite. Like he's the,
I know.
it's like you guys are chalk and cheese.
Yeah. And here's the other
How have
thing.
you-
I was just going to say the other part of this is, part of that is building community. In other words, that this is, and I love this piece. I really love this piece, is that it's not about me and my capacity. It's actually about who comes into my world, and together, how do we make sure that this vision becomes a reality, right? So that means then I have to build community. Oh my gosh, that means not only do I have to go, look at me over here for a moment so I can tell you about the vision, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to take them on the journey with me.
Yeah.
Seriously? Like, can't I just like hide over here, do a little piece here, and then you go tell them about that? Well, you kind of can, but you can't make a bigger enough impact that way. And I was challenged with that a couple of years ago. You know that I really fought with that piece, because I was okay being the secret sauce, but I also knew that's not necessarily.
What's that? Sorry.
But being the secret sauce for me was not necessarily going to be the where I was meant to get things. Like, I couldn't have done it, and I couldn't be doing what I do today if I was the secret sauce.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
But the secret sauce is in a different cupboard to where you're, like, to where you want it to be as well. Like, where your world and what you're creating is different to being the secret sauce. That's two different.
No, it's not anymore.
Oh, really?
It might have been at one point, but it's definitely not anymore. And that's what that's the interesting piece, is that, and I see this a lot with leaders. I see a lot of people who, literally the other day, maybe yesterday even, another person came in my world and they said, like, it was yesterday. I love building what I've built out. And this person is amazing. She literally, is very influential in her own area. Do you know what? She was going, I don't even know if I want to be getting up to do this. I don't even know if this is what I'm wanting to do. And she goes, I don't know what I'm going to do and what I want to do. Here's the thing. I knew she knew what she wanted to do. She just wasn't giving herself the permission to ask the right question. So, of course, I gave myself the permission to ask her the question to herself. And that was this. If you were to know what that is, what would that look like? What would that be? My famous question. You know this question well. And she asked that, and within seconds, it would be this, and I'd be doing that, and here's the thing. She had built this amazing business, but there was a part of her that she couldn't access, a part of her that she couldn't be. Here's the thing. When we combine those two things together and it becomes this ecosystem of what we produce out in the world, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. That secret sauce gets to flow in and out of all the other things. But you rock up every day just being you. And that's what I get to do now. And so, even if I press live.
I thought your secret sauce was with the Taki side of things. That's where I was like, because you were, you're the secret sauce of some of the stuff. That's where I was getting confused. I was like, what secret sauce?
So I still use, but here's the thing. So I still run that, but I use that as a playing field to what I do outside in my other world as well. So they do flow very much. And I use a lot of what I do outside in there. And then what I use in there, I do outside as well. So there's flow, right? In all of my ecosystem that is a part of the makeup of it. And I think this is where it's so beautiful when you can just be who you're meant to be and what that looks like. But like I said, I'm naturally an introvert. I'm naturally not a person that goes, look at me, hey, let's tell the world and get lots of people on board. But when you have a vision and drivers that are outside of yourself, then if I get up today and I don't feel like it, I think of the lives that I'm meant to be serving today. I think of the ones that maybe if I don't do what I'm meant to do today, I will miss out on those opportunities to connect with an amazing, awesome human that together we could be making a huge difference. And as we partner up, there's so many things that I have to use as filters when I get those moments of I'm an introvert. What if people don't like me? What if all the things you speak of at one time were the things that held me back? But I don't know about you. One of the things I really learned about my mom passing away, and I'll never forget about it because it's one of my little projects. I'll get to it one day. It's in my space. And I'm just starting to create it a little bit more each day. But me, curiosity, questions. I had to ask my mom when she was passing away. I said, hey, what's it like to die, Mom? And I'll never forget her answer. She's a woman of faith, so she didn't hesitate. She goes, Kira-Marie, I'm really peaceful about where I'm going, but I haven't finished what I was meant to do here on earth. And those words played a big part in how I go forward every day right now. I go, what can I do today, humanly possible, that I'm meant to do today? And I think, what if we can live every day doing what we're meant to do? And then I pulled it back to, what if I do and live every day knowing I did everything humanly possible? What would that need to look like? And I can tell you, when I use that as one of my lenses, some of those things, they just don't care. Like, they don't matter. Like my lack, my imperfections,
But you also don't have, you don't put up with excuses. One of the things I know about you is you just don't, excuses aren't your thing. You just, whereas people would probably go, I'd love to play a bigger game, or I'd love to do this, or I'd love to do that, but I can't because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Because what are excuses? What are they?
Roadblocks to playing a bigger game, but they're just helping you to play small. Staying in your comfort zone.
Right.
Yeah.
And they are not part of my non-negotiables. I don't stay in my comfort zone. I don't let roadblocks stop me. If there's a roadblock, I need to work it out, figure why that's a roadblock, and figure out another pathway. It just might be a slower challenge to getting to the pathway I need to get on, but I don't let it stop me, because I believe there's always a pathway to the result that we need to get to. It's just, and that's why I do a lot of things on pathways, because we often wired to one way. What we need to do is unplug that wiring, put it into the right wiring, and then we get the behavior that actually will help us to get the outcome, the result, head in the right pathway that we want to. And those pathways, I think, often pathways are created without what you've got, your variables, your uniqueness. And we haven't always, so there's reasons, like, don't get me wrong, there are reasons to often why we have excuses. But I don't let those reasons stop me. And I think that in leadership, to be a great leader, and a great leader is just someone who's being effective, someone who's, I don't know, for me, a great leader is someone willing to do whatever it takes to do their pathway. And I think to be a great leader is someone who is willing to find that pathway, to go over those challenges, to work through it. And at the moment, one of the things that I've learned on this journey is if I'm going through challenges, there's probably someone else who's either been there before me. So reach out, ask, like we talked about before, or here's the other side of it. Maybe they haven't gone through it because you're pioneering a new pathway. Maybe someone needs to hear what you're working through. Not for sympathy, not for them to, oh, you're so right, this is so bad, this is so terrible. But no, here's some of the learnings I'm learning from having to work through this.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not going through the same thing as you are, but it allows them the opportunity to go, oh my goodness, it's so good to know someone else is having to do it a little bit harder at the moment. Right?
Oh, yeah. There's people doing it, doing things, what you're doing, but a lot harder. I don't mean you personally. I mean just in general. Like there's people doing it so much harder. I think, one of the other things too, I see the importance of being a good leader is empowering others around you, empowering your team, empowering them to make good decisions and or make decisions then. Nice if they're good. But just to empower others.
How do you do that? How do you empower others?
Well, I think with my team is empowering them to, make decisions within certain boundaries. So going, okay, well, here's I can't think of an example at the moment, but basically, giving them certain boundaries of how to make the decision, and they can, and helping them to make, good decisions about the business or whatever it is that,
Yeah. It's interesting, hey? Like I think often we can say, yeah, we need to empower people. And then it's like, okay, so how am I going to do that? Or how do I do that? I think empower is an interesting thing. I've never really loved the word empower. I kind of find it as you need to be empowered or empower someone. It's like, well, I don't know. I think the biggest way to be empowered is and maybe it's just the way I see leadership. The more effective that you can be as a leader is those that are not afraid of taking people on the journey with you as a leader and knowing that maybe they're even better than you to do the role that you're actually in right then. And I love being able to bring people into places and then going, okay, now that's yours. See you later. No. But like, and then that opens up opportunity for me to move to the next space of my learning. And I think a lot of the time in leadership, there's this hierarchy of leadership, and I can't stand it. It's like, if you can be up here, then you get to tell these people what to do or run this kind of thing. And it's like, seriously? Like, that's to me dictatorship leadership.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of systems that actually have created a lot of dictator leaders. What is it? Now I can't even say it, but like, that's how much I hate it. Dictatorship. I don't know.
Does it work for corporates? Are we,
I don't know.
Does it work, that sort of hierarchy setup? Does that work for maybe corporates?
Does it, or is it just the way we've done it a lot?
Well, that's the old school. Maybe that's the old school way, and the new leadership should be or could be a lot different. Exactly what we're talking about: creating a safe environment, having the amazing culture. That could be.
It's interesting though, isn't it? It's interesting because we get so used to seeing it a particular way, and we think, yeah, but it works over here. And I go, is it working over there? Are we like, how many people are leaving out of corporate because they're not liking that. And I don't know that that's the answer either. And yes, there are parts and I mean, it's not just in corporate. There's a whole lot of different areas in life where this kind of appears its ugly head at times. And if we had more, I don't know. I don't know that I know the answer when it comes to this versus this, but I'm definitely willing to have more conversations around that.
I think, like you say, starting the small, working with the small groups to build that awareness and just having the conversations like we're doing today, definitely helps people to even think differently about, being a leader or how they are in their life.
Yeah. And I think in the case of, say, the corporate side of it, it's, well, what culture are you wanting to create? What do you want? What is important for the culture that you're building? And is this the best way to be able to do it? And I think the only way they're going to see if there's other opportunities is to be first creating these conversations where the awareness starts. And it's only a starting point. But as you see today, we've had an amazing conversation and there's been lots of great things. Like, I mean, how many things have we pulled out of this one today? Like, it's just so many, right?
Yes.
You don't realize how much there's a conversation around this. Yeah.
Yeah. There is so much asking, not being afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Playing a big game, excuses. So much.
Yeah.
So much. There's always a lot that you uncover, and there's a lot from people.
Yeah, and we're just scraping at the surface right now. Hey, if people want to know what you do and to find out more about what you do, where's the best spot for them to do that?
I just realised I actually haven't put my full name there, so just CheriseStockick.com.
Cool. And I'm sure, are you on social media at all or not?
Yes, I have a few pages.
LinkedIn? I don't know.
LinkedIn? Yes, I have a few social media pages.
Or do they just send up a pigeon and hope it gets to you?
Look, I've got my Facebook page. That's probably a good place to start. Just my personal page, and then I can direct people.
I love it. Hey, there is a question. There is a question I ask, of course, on every single conversation we have on the decision table. And that is this. What have you got from our conversation today? What are you going to take with you? Maybe it's an insight that you've gone, or maybe it's a new learning. Maybe it's just reconfirming something. What is it that you're taking from our conversation today?
Oh, there's so much. Probably deep down, I'm a lot more confident than I think. Probably that I spend way too much time thinking about what other people think about me. So being judged been a theme as well today. That I'm not afraid to ask. Just that for me is a good reminder that I'm not afraid to ask. And just a really good reminder to play a bigger game.
I love that. Of course, I love that piece.
Of course you do. You're like my voice of reason in my head every time. Don't you worry. I
love that.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Well, here's the thing I'm going to take from today. I think you brought up an interesting reminder to me on how there seems to be this big gap from those that almost are playing it such a big game versus, well, who am I? What does that look like? And I really want to make sure that I give voice to those that maybe don't feel that they're leaders or know how to lead in even a small capacity, but want to in some capacity. And I'm gonna be making sure that I help to bring more of those people along on this journey as well, because I don't want to leave people. I want to, it doesn't mean that I'm going to drag them but I want to always create opportunity where anyone, no matter what stage you're at, can come on the journey with me as well. And I think that was a really good piece and a good reminder for me to remember in the work that I do. And the other side was that you said interesting things around the secret source side of it, and I was like, it's funny because I haven't even thought about being the secret source until we had that conversation, and I was like, yeah, I used to think I was the secret source. And I really love the fact that I hadn't even thought of being the secret source for so long, probably since our last conversation a long time ago, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And that is kind of a nice place for me to be at. And it kind of reminds me of, maybe I've come a lot further than I thought I had in the last little while. Maybe I am evolving, and that excites me. And I go, oh, that's awesome. That means I can keep evolving to the next level. So sometimes it's a good reminder, right? That, we are leaders on a journey, and we can continue to evolve. And sometimes that's good to be reminded of that.
I definitely think, your Facebook Lives were amazing. Like, I know you were saying, that's not the sort of thing that you love to do, but, that I think you in front of camera is fantastic. So
thanks.
So
do more of that and be out there more. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. Get out of the closet.
That's right. I'm coming out.
Well,
wow.
Like you're absolutely gorgeous, and you speak so beautifully. You're so intelligent. That there's just, I could go for hours just listening to you. So, your Facebook Lives or getting in front of camera, for me, I love to see it.
Wow, thank you. And girl, thank you for being here. Like, seriously.
Thank you for having me.
I am so grateful that you could come on, because we had the event on the normal time. Yeah. I had to shift that person and they couldn't then come on. So it was like, I didn't give you much warning. You had no idea what you were coming on. But I just love, girl, I just love the fact that you just had the willingness to come on here, have a conversation. And that's what I love about you. And I love, and I do go back to resilience, because I think there's a resilience to you. And I don't know that you can see it so much yourself, but I believe that to see where you've come from, to see where you continue to go. And I know you want to play at a bigger level and you get frustrated with yourself, but I love the honesty that you've brought to the table today, that we've had this conversation, that you share some of these frustrations, you share some of the growth, the learnings that you've got from it. And I know that many listeners who will listen to this, and a lot of them are in the replay, will get so many droplets of wisdom from our conversation today. So I'm forever grateful that you came on. And
I didn't think you'd let me get away with not being real and being being raw. It's like you don't let me get away with it. So that for me was. But look, I have to say, I love being part of this journey with you, with Taki, with everybody. To have you guys in my world means so much, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I just think I'm really blessed to have you guys on the journey,
and we're blessed to have you as well. Always. Thanks. And I can't wait to see your beautiful girl again. I haven't seen her for so long, and I'm sure she's so big now. Oh, amazing! You're an incredible mama, and I love, the fact that our children are the next generation, and these are the next generation of leaders. And the best leader that any one of us can be is leading and being role models and creating spaces that are safe for our children to be the best they can be. And thank you for doing that for your beautiful daughter, and just being so strong in who you are, so that she can be strong in who she is as well. Like, I think, we don't give enough kudos to that. And from one mama bear to another girl, I know
I was going to say,
those moments are not always easy moments, So, you're doing it good. You're doing it good.
As I said, there's always someone who's doing it tougher.
Yeah, I know. So, is there any final words that you want to leave? Because I'm about to end this broadcast, but
no, I'm all good. I think I've said enough. Yeah.
Right. I think.
Thank you so much.
I think we've already left them with some amazing droplets. So, what an amazing decision table today. And again,
thank you,
Sherry, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to end the broadcast. Don't you run away, though.
Okay.